Tonight, about 11 months after it commenced sitting, the Lagos Judicial Panel investigating police brutality following the NSAS protest suspends proceedings indefinitely. The president to depart Abuja tomorrow for New York to participate in the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA. It's a breath of fresh air for 10 additional students of Bethel Baptist High School in Kaduna State as they are set free 75 days after their abduction. And girls excluded as Afghan secondary schools reopened with only boys and male teachers allowed back into classrooms.
On business news tonight, African Development Bank approves $1 million grant for upgrading of Africa's hydropower stations.
On sports news tonight, heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua assures boxing fans that eagerly anticipated fight with British rival Tyson Fury will happen despite delays.
It appears the Lagos State Judicial Panel investigating cases of police brutality and human rights violations may be taking a long break as it has suspended its sitting from today until further notice. The chairman of the panel, Justice Doris Okuwobi, explained that this is to enable members conclude work on two key reports. She said the members will collate and evaluate petitions already heard in order to make their findings and recommendations.
There are two reports we are expected to work on. We are not close enough to any of them yet. We cannot continue with the sitting and end up the assignments without concluding anything. So we will not be sitting from today. But as soon as we find ourselves in a comfortable position, we'll send hearing notices to cases that have been listed and for which we were unable to take. So please bear with us. We cannot do otherwise. We cannot speculate on any further extension. So we have to work towards completing the assignment as best as we can. This is without prejudice to us coming back to concluding some of the past hard matters. We have quite a number of pending decisions. Dates will be communicated to petitioners who have their decisions pending, when we would only sit over decisions and hand over checks to those petitioners.
We'll bring you more on that sitting in the course of the bulletin. And over to the nation's capital, Abuja, where the president will tomorrow, September the 19th, depart for New York, United States, where he's expected to join other world leaders for the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, which opened on September the 14th. In a statement announcing President Muhammadu Buhari's participation, his special advisor on media and publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina, explained that the president will address the assembly during the general debates on Friday, September the 24th. The president is expected to speak on this year's theme, which is Building Resilience Through Hope to Recover from COVID-19, Rebuild Sustainably, Respond to the Needs of the Planet, Respect the Rights of People, and Revitalize the United Nations and other global issues. President Buhari will also hold bilateral meetings with some of his counterparts and heads of international development organizations. Accompanying him on the trip are the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Onyema, the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, the Minister of State for Environment, Sharon Ikazo, and the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Mongono, among others. President Buhari is expected back in the country on Sunday, September the 26th. Also, security and some cheery news from Kaduna State, where 10 additional abducted students of Bethel Baptist High School in Kujama area of the state have been set free by their abductors. Although police authorities are yet to confirm the release of the students who spent 75 days in captivity, a senior official of the school told our correspondents that the students were released this evening after an undisclosed amount of money was paid to the kidnappers, adding that they have since been reunited with their families. In the early hours of July the 5th, 2021, bandits invaded the school and abducted 121 students and subsequently stated that the students will be released in batches. They freed the first set of 28 students on July the 25th after a ransom of 100 million naira was reportedly paid to them. The latest development brings to 100 the number of those released, with 21 of them still in captivity. Well, it's not cheery news from Sokoto State, where bandits have abducted 4 people and killed 2 others in Tangaza, a town in Tangaza local government area of the state. An eyewitness in the area says the bandits launched the attacks after the evening prayers on Friday, killing a shop owner and injuring a young girl who later died in hospital. It says the intervention of security agencies and vigilantes led to the rescue of one of the victims and a reduction in the number of casualties. This conflicts with the report from the PPRO of the State Police Command, ASP Sanusi Abubakar, who says only 1 person was killed and no one was abducted. Still in security, a 28-year-old man, Timothy Emmanuel from Plateau State, has been arrested by officers of the Nigeria Police for impersonation after allegedly posing as an army officer. Emmanuel was nabbed in Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital, and paraded at the police headquarters alongside 60 other suspected kidnappers, vandals, armed robbers, cultists, and fraudsters. While assuring the people of the protection of lives and property, the police boss in the state, Adesina Oshoyemi, sought for their support to record more success in crime fighting.
Preliminary investigation revealed that the suspect, who parades himself as a military officer in camouflage, was never enlisted into the army but got the uniform from his uncle, who is a military personnel serving in Borno State. He thereafter moved to Jos, Plateau State, under the guise of being a military personnel and went away with the AK-49 rifle and 2 magazines of a Nigerian security and civil defense personnel serving in Jos. When the rifle was left in his custody by the NCDC officer, who went to do his registration to obtain national identity card. Furthermore, the suspect came down to Nasarawa State and started perpetrating his nefarious activities in Karu and Lafia before Nemesis caught up with him. The suspect had given the police useful information, and investigation is ongoing at State Criminal Investigation Department, CID, Lafia.
And away from security's road infrastructure, some relief may soon come for motorists and other commuters who ply the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway as palliative work commences on the Amansi axis of the road. But this follows months of agonizing experience by road users, prompting the Anambra State Ministry of Works to begin fixing the failed portions of the expressway. According to the ministry's permanent secretary, plans are on to repair other roads in bad condition once the rains are gone.
This is the Onitsha-bound end of the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway in Anambra State, southeast Nigeria. Muddy and bumpy is a modest way to describe its present condition. For the hundreds of motorists who ply this route, there's no answer to the questions as to how the situation got this bad.
Before the route there, good. We carry passenger from here to Amansi to a Caucus 100 naira. But now where the route there, but we take 250, 200 naira.
Interventions have come from private business owners in the area but the relief has only been temporal. After much plea from commuters, the state government swings into action.
ESCO directed the Ministry of Works to urgently carry out palliative works on the Amansi end of the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway, and we have already made the Enugu-bound motorable. If you look at that side of the road, you would find out that we've used boulders to make it at least motorables to cushion the hardship that commuters face on this road.
At last, some relief has come their way. The state government, through the Ministry of Work, says more internal roads will be fixed once the dry season sets in.
The Taraba state government is insisting that states should have some control over solid minerals within their domain. And according to the state government, the Nigerian constitution was carefully drafted to shortchange states with natural resources, especially in the exploration of their solid minerals. But this is coming from Governor Darius Ishaku, who was represented by his deputy, Mr. Haruna Manu, at a meeting of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission on the review of revenue allocation formula in Jalingo, the state capital.
This meeting by the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission on the review of the revenue allocation formula is holding when there is a dispute between the federal government and some states over the allocation of value-added tax.
Thank you.
Taraba State is hosting the meeting. The Deputy Governor of the state, Mr. Haruna Manu, who is representing Governor Darius Ishaku, throws in a new dimension. This time is the issue of who controls the natural resources.
The federal government should take less share. The other two shares or tiers of government, the state government and the local government, should take the lion's share, not the other way around.
The government also disagrees with the current revenue sharing formula, a position that is noted by the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, especially as the current formula is expected to be reviewed in December 2021 after 29 years.
The sensitization exercise has been designed to enlist the interest of the stakeholders through interactions at various levels in order to get informed and make useful inputs that can provide workable template to assist the Commission in its task of evolving and bequeathing to the nation a fair, just and equitable new revenue sharing formula.
After the meeting, an official of the Taraba State government speaks on some of the deliberations reached behind closed doors.
Solid minerals is in the exclusive list of the Constitution. And perhaps the state government are the owner of the land. People will just go to Abuja and go and collect license to come and exploit our mineral resources here. We felt that it is very imperative for Taraba State should benefit from a certain percent for the purpose of the exploration of the mineral resources.
The RMAFC is working to ensure that the new formula is ready by the end of the year. A comprehensive review that the agency believes will ensure a more equitable distribution of the accrued revenue into the Federation's account to the three tiers of government.
In part two, after the break, lack of storage facilities for farm produce compounds food crisis in Bauchi State. Stay with us. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. About 11 months after it commenced sitting, the Lagos Judicial Panel investigating police brutality following the NSAS protests suspends proceedings indefinitely. The president to depart Abuja tomorrow for New York to participate in the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly. It's a breath of fresh air for 10 additional students of Bethel Baptist High School in Kaduna as they are set free 75 days after their abduction. And girls excluded as Afghan secondary schools reopened with only boys and male teachers allowed back into classrooms. Nigerians in the northeast region of the country have continued to grapple with food insecurity, especially in the face of the ongoing insurgency. The situation is further compounded by poor storage facility for farm produce, which Bauchi State is currently contending with. Our correspondent Hajara Aliyu takes a look at how families in Bauchi State are impacted by the shortage of food and measures being taken by government to bring succor to them.
Asmao is making dinner for 25 people. She says her family is eating less. Her husband Yunusa is a farm worker and he spends almost all his earnings on food. Food crisis is threatening many homes as key commodities are beyond the reach of the common man, and the crisis is exacerbated by the lack of storage.
da ba mu da shi wata ran da cirma ka samu da daren ka ci in Allah ya sa ya dan rage da safa a bada yara kai kuma da safan ka fita ka je ka nemo wanda za ku kuma manya za ku samu ku taba.
The National Grains Reserve Initiative is a far cry from its objective. No grain has been stored in these silos in Bauchi State since 2017 when it was constructed. Part of the silo was blown off by windstorm 3 years ago, and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture in Bauchi State has declined to comment on the status of the facility.
75% of Nigerian farmers are peasant, and there's no in this country. So for government to have something that they will go and put in the silo, it will have to encourage people to produce more. And look at the people that are not producing now, in the IDPs waiting for government to give them food.
Farmers insist that their production capacity can only expand with more investment in agriculture.
If we are farming manually the last 30, 40 years, but we cannot farm manually now because of the number of human beings. The population is increasing by the day.
Nevertheless, the Bauchi State government is set to utilize the state silos with the introduction of the buffer stock scheme. The program has worked in the past.
The Bauchi State buffer stock scheme, where we'll buy farm produce from the farmers at the point of harvest at a very good price, keep them in our silos, and when it is very high, the prices are high, we bring them out and sell them at a lower price.
These storage bins in Bauchi alone has the capacity to store 40,000 metric tons. These grain bins were constructed in 1968 and subsequently put to use every year. Its utilization dwindled with successive governments, and at the moment, some of the bins are not functional because the machines required to operate them have been damaged. Governor Muhammad has directed that storage facilities across the state be fixed ahead of the takeoff of the scheme, but the state must also bear in mind other factors needed to guarantee food security. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
To humanitarian issues, the federal government is determined to ensure that Nigerian refugees are returned to the country safely and with their dignity intact. The Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, Mr. Bashir Al-Khali, made the commitment during a meeting with a team from the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. He says one of the ministry's priorities is to sustain the process of bringing back the refugees, which includes development of sustainable homegrown models for rehabilitation, reintegration, and reconstruction.
Being the coordinating agency, the ministry has facilitated the adoption of the national policies, including that of IDPs, I'm sure you're aware of that, which incorporated the provisions of the Kampala Convention to ensure the provision of sustainable, durable solutions. The ministry, in collaboration with relevant organizations, has launched a homegrown strategy, which is the Humanitarian Peace Development Framework, in line with global best practices. The framework adopted an area-based approach towards peace building and sustainable national development. Regarding the issue of refugee management, the Nigerian government is poised in ensuring the voluntary return of Nigerian refugees in neighboring countries, and as a result of the activities of Boko Haram and other bandits, we are committed to implement within international best practices. Equally, it is significant to note that the Nigerian government is presently hosting a large number of refugees from neighboring countries, and we are working hard in collaboration with your good selves to provide adequate protection to the refugees and the asylum seekers.
Also, health matters. As part of measures to curtail the deadly effect of prostate cancer, the federal government has flagged off an awareness campaign on its dangers and care in Nigeria. Speaking during the virtual ceremony, the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Hanire, notes that the death rate from prostate and other related forms of cancer has reached an alarming proportion in Nigeria.
The incidence of cancer of all types has assumed alarming dimensions globally, including in Nigeria. Prostate cancer is the commonest type of cancer among Nigerian men. Unfortunately, many prostate cancers in Nigeria present late due to inadequate awareness and due to misdiagnosis.
And elsewhere, the Swedish ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Carl Michael Grant, is canvassing for countries around the world to scale up the implementation of the 2015 Paris Agreement on climate change to save humanity from the increasing threats of global warming. The Swedish envoy made the appeal at a cleanup exercise to mark the World's Cleanup Day in Abuja, which coincides with the Swedish Plugging Day, set aside by the Swedish government to encourage jogging and picking up litter. According to the ambassador, the latest United Nations report on global warming emphasizes an urgent need for all countries to raise awareness on environmental protection and clean energy.
The environment is one of the main challenges for our time. The environment as such, where we are, but also the change of the climate, and it goes together. So raising awareness about this issue is one of the main top priorities of the Swedish Embassy. I mean, we all know the urgency of this, and we got the IPCC, the UN report, one of the biggest ever, a couple of weeks ago, and we can see that some changes are perhaps not possible to stop. I mean, we can't go back to what we had before industrialization 150 years ago, but we can still stop this development from running faster and faster. But we have to stick to the Paris Agreement to be able to do this, and not one country or 10 countries, but many countries, especially the big countries such as Nigeria, has to join this movement in able to stop it together.
The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has announced that the first phase of Sokoto Lagos Homes will be delivered in November. During an inspection of the Lagos Homes project in Etiosa local government area of Lagos State, Governor Sanwo-Olu mandated contractors to deliver the project or lose the deal. Our correspondent Titilayo Aberowo reports.
Sokoto Lagos Homes, situated in the Lekki-Ekpe axis of Lagos, is one of the housing schemes designed to improve the housing deficit in the state. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu makes his way to the area to inspect the ongoing project, which kicked off in 2010 during the administration of Governor Babatunde Fashola and was not completed by his successor, Governor Akinwumi Ambode.
Let's see what are the new things, special allocation and all of these things.
It's an opportunity to meet with some of the contractors in charge of the housing project, and Governor Sanwo-Olu talks tough, mandating them to deliver or lose the contracts.
And I also use the opportunity to very, very sternly warn erring contractors, because there are no two heads, right? It's one means of measurement that fits all. In the same payments, some have indeed, utilized public funds very, very well. But some are actually been very recalcitrant. It really doesn't matter who you know. I'm not going to tolerate it, right? I'm coming here to actually come and terminate some contracts, for some contractors, but I'm going to give you 1 week. I'm going to give you 1 week because I have the names here, and I'm going to roll out the names. I'm going to give you 1 week. If I don't see an improvement, not only will I terminate those contracts, I will also ensure that we'll prosecute you.
All things being equal, the first phase is expected to be delivered in November.
Level of work on phase 1
is it's well over 90%, right? But on phase 2, some of the blocks are advanced, but some are far below. So what we're going to do is that within the next 6 weeks or thereabout, we'll also bring you back here to come and hand over this phase 1. So we're hoping that we can complete phase 1 before the end of November.
It's not like
The project, sited on 16.9 hectares of land, has 1,188 units. First phase comprises 64 blocks with 744 flats, and the second phase 37 blocks with 444 flats. Titi Layo, Aberewo, Channels Television News.
When the news at 10 returns, we'll bring you more from today's sitting of the NSAS panel. We take a look at how incessant industrial actions are negatively impacting on the country's health indices. Plus, the African Development Bank approves $1 million grant for upgrading of Africa's hydropower stations. That's some business news. Join us again. Well, let's take you back to our lead story on the Lagos State Judicial panel investigating cases of police brutality and human rights violations, as it appears now that the panel may be taking a long break as it has suspended its sitting from today until further notice.
Yes. Saturday's proceedings started with an announcement which caught almost everyone off guard.
There are 2 reports we are expected to work on. They are not close enough to any of them yet. We cannot continue with the sitting and end up the assignment without concluding anything. So we will not be sitting from today. But as soon as we find ourselves in a comfortable position, we'll send hearing notices to cases that have been listed and for which we are unable to take.
After this announcement, the panel went on to hear and conclude the cross-examination of the pathologist, Professor John Obafunwa. The former president, African Women Lawyers Association, Mandi Asagba, asked if DNA test was considered with identifying the bodies picked across Lagos during the period of the NSAS protest.
Giving us money. All we can do is to say to appropriate authorities that this is how much it will cost to do this thing. I can use my media salary to pay for DNA.
Professor Bafunwa has, however, advised that the process be speeded up to prevent further decomposition owing to power outage. This was closely followed by the cross-examination of one of the NSAS coordinators, Sarah Ibrahim, who was confronted with a video of another protester, Godson, who featured in the CNN video.
Are you freezing?
Shoot that bullet! Shoot that bullet! It's one throw. Shoot this. Keep seeing people. Man, sit down. Miller. How they keep going. How they keep going.
Now, that is a street gun. You hear that? That is a street gun. That is a street gun. You hear that? That is a street gun. You hear that? Okay, it's all right. But the panel has heard what we have played.
After this testimony, lead counsel to the Lagos State government, senior advocate of Nigeria, Abiodun Owonikoko, revisited the issue of suspension of proceedings. He made an application.
Given the indication that the panel may not sit for some time, one of the experts actually was commissioned from the United Kingdom. He had flown twice when we got around July, August. So we said we will confirm exactly when he can be taken. The other one too is a very highly mobile security expert who has been, I don't want to go into details. So the 2 of them are just to give security reports as part of the analysis, and then we are done. That's all.
The panel rose to consider this submission and returned with its decision.
The quality of evidence to be presented by the Lagos State in presenting a foreign expert from the UK and the security expert we envisage would slow the panel down in its working on the report.
Other lawyers appearing before the panel have, however, advised that the panel adopts a process that will ensure that all sides are heard, including a suggestion that the expert witness be given an opportunity to participate virtually. Meanwhile, a member of the panel, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Ebunlu Adegboruwa, has alleged that there are attempts to frustrate the panel from reaching meaningful conclusions on its investigations into the Lekki toll gate incident. He's promised to shed more light on this in the next few days. Shola Shoyeli, Channels Television News.
With the labor matters, Nigeria's health sector is one of the most critical of national life, yet it is one that has been bogged down by a series of industrial actions which have exacerbated the country's poor health indices. A study conducted on 191 countries by the World Health Organization in 2018 ranked Nigeria 187 on global access to quality health services. This special report looks at the recurrent industrial dispute in the nation's health sector.
We may be seated, please.
Over the years, labor unions in the health sector have had cause to meet with representatives of the federal government in this conference room to negotiate, either with the view to preventing a strike or to end an existing industrial action.
We are also then pleading with government.
Some of these negotiations are protracted, with patients bearing the consequences, especially in public hospitals. The recent strike by resident doctors, which is in its second month, is one of those numerous instances with dire consequences on patients who are in need of medical care.
It has been difficult for patients, mostly the poor patients, because this is a primary healthcare facility where they can access healthcare services at a minimal rate than going to a private facility.
Aside from the strike by the resident doctors, the joint health sector unions gave the federal government until September 17th to resolve issues pertaining to their welfare, while the Nigerian Medical Association gave the government a 21-day ultimatum which expires on Sunday, September the 26th. This recurring situation often results from the inability of parties to honor previous agreements or administrative inefficiencies.
When government enters agreement with workers or leaders of the union, at the time of implementation, you see them reneging. And because of that, the workers will get aggrieved and they will want to show their grievances. And the strike is like the only ingredient or weapon that the workers could use to get the attention of the government.
If the policies are done in the sense that the individual ministry, department, or agencies particularly concerned with or bestowed with the powers to do their job actually take their time to ensure that all these jobs are actually done, I don't think we'll have frequent strikes and frequent industrial disharmony.
The Nigerian government has 3 industrial dispute resolution mechanisms, which ordinarily should help to prevent or speedily address industrial actions. Yet, strike in the health sector persists, causing many to wonder how else to address the problem.
A lot of the health system operational procedures we have now needs to be touched. I know we need to do some reformation.
The popular saying, "Health is wealth," illustrates the critical position of the health sector in any economy. And to give it such deserved priority in Nigeria, the government and its employees in the sector must come out clean and establish systems that guarantee harmony in the sector.
Now let's turn our attention to the education sector. The Elizada University, Ilaramoki in Ondo State, now ranks as one of the top 10 private universities in the country. That's coming from the Vice-Chancellor of the university, Professor Olukayode Amond. He stated this at the 4th and 5th convocation ceremonies of the university, where 48 students of the institution graduated with first-class degrees.
Management staff and graduating students of Elizade University, Laramoki, Ondo State are joined by guests from all walks of life at the school campus for a combined 4th and 5th convocation ceremony for graduates. The graduating students are from the 2018-2019 and 2019-2020 academic sessions, totaling 413 graduates.
Was recently ranked among the best 50 with quality.
Vice Chancellor Professor Olukayode Amun in his address expresses determination of the university to be ranked among the best 10 in the country.
Our regulatory ranking has also improved tremendously in the last 2 years as we progressively move up the ladder of prominence with the ultimate destination of being among the best 10 universities in Nigeria. The journey to greatness occurs along the tortuous path of life, which we must navigate with wit and vigor.
Governor of Ondo State, who is represented by the Secretary to the State Government, urges the graduating students to combine good character with their degrees.
While we are graduating, they will say, have been found worthy in learning and character. That character is even more important, because that's the only thing that sustains it out there.
Founder of the university, Chief Mike Ojo, is also represented by a member of the Board of Trustees, Chief Sam Bolarinde. He challenges the graduates on making global impact and also calls on government to assist in funding private universities.
Let me use this opportunity, this medium, to call on the government to devise means of assisting private universities, since the graduates produced of these institutions contribute immensely to national development in various ways. I am convinced that you have been instilled with the relevant skills required to make commendable global impact.
As customary, overall best graduating student, Will Sessions, delivers his valedictory speech.
In everything we do, be the positive impact that anybody brings into we. Go out there and make a difference. Let everyone know that you are a student of Elizade University.
One of the high points of the event is the award of certificates and presentation of prizes to 48 graduates who bagged the first class and others with second class upper, lower and third class degrees.
Meanwhile, it's a milestone for the Nigerian University of Technology and Management as the institution graduates its first set of students. A total of 57 persons who benefited from the NUTM Scholars Program were awarded certificates at a ceremony held today in Lagos. Speaking at the graduation ceremony, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, believes that with focus on innovation in science and technology which the school offers, its graduates will be able to proffer solutions to the country's challenges.
With classes in leadership, artificial intelligence, operations management, and other transformational courses done, the journey of the Nigerian University of Technology and Management Scholars Program for its pioneer class has now come to an end. The graduation procession is signaled by the arrival of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. In his welcome address, the Chairman, NUTM Governing Board, Dr. Okechukwu Enelama, appraises the quality of graduates churned out by the institution.
NUTM is creating a center of teaching excellence for STEM and management education that positions students for careers in the 21st century. Today, we have taken a historic first step in realizing this audacious vision. Today, we are celebrating and honoring our pioneer graduates who will take the vision to the marketplace.
The presence of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is indeed a statement of support. He challenges the graduates to strive towards excellence going forward.
We've heard that you had to go through a pandemic. Working through a pandemic, mass on, to be able to get to this point today where you are graduating. And let me say to you that that is a metaphor of life and the things to come. But at the end of the day, If you set about your tasks in the way that you've set about this, working daily, hard work, and with the confidence that you've approached this, you will win every time.
The graduating students, 57 in all, walk up the stage to receive their certificates, as well as a special recognition awards for outstanding students.
The experience was very eye-opening and it's groundbreaking really, because the amount of work we had to put in to be here today, you don't even want to know, always up late to the night, working through the hours. And I'm just really elated to be here, and I'm very proud of myself. I'm proud of my cohorts because we've been through an amazing journey.
The Nigerian University of Technology and Management joins the large number of institutions in the country, nurturing leaders for Nigeria and Africa in areas of research, leadership, and innovation.
For the latest in the world of business, here's Teniola Shubawali.
Thanks a lot, Kayode. Welcome to Business News. The African Development Bank has approved a $1 million grant to assist in the upgrade of Africa's hydropower fleet. A statement from the AFDB says the Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa is expected to boost the continent's generation capacity by 200 megawatts at a low cost and minimal environmental impact. The project, which would be carried out in collaboration with the International Hydropower Association, is also expected to cut greenhouse gas emissions by around 300 kilotons of carbon dioxide each year and add 150 jobs around the continent. The Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council has strongly condemned the sharp practices among top officials of the World Bank, which has led to the termination of its flagship Doing Business report after its suspension in 2020. A statement released by PEVEC explains that the report had served as a catalyst for economic reforms and investor decisions across the globe. Nigeria was first featured in the Doing Business report of 2004. The country's ranking declined from 106 in 2007 to 170 in 2015, but leapt up by an unprecedented 24 places in 2017 and 15 places in 2019. The country was twice named as one of the top 10 most improved economies in the world in the last 3 editions of the report, and one of only 2 African countries to make the highly prestigious list 2 years ago. Let's check in on the foreign exchange market activity at the FMDQ exchange. The total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot, forwards and futures markets improved by 55.47% week on week to $793.04 million as at September the 17th. Similarly, the amount of contracts at the FX futures market rose to $286 million, and that's a 70.04% increase when compared to $168.20 million traded in the previous week. Meanwhile, the Naira dropped by 0.17% to 411 Naira 25 kobo against the dollar at the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange window of the Forex market. The domestic stock market ended the 3rd week of September mildly positive, with about 11 billion naira added to the overall value of listed equities. The benchmark indicator of market performance closed the week up by 0.06%, following a mild rebound recorded on Friday, while negative sentiment swept across the 5 key sectors on the listed equities. However, performance on the activity chart of equities performance was negative when compared to last week's trading, as a total volume and value of shares traded fell by 39.95% and 17.76% each. Meanwhile, UPDC led a pack of 20 gainers up by 11.8%. SEOA tops a long list of 38 losers with 18.46% drop on its share price. Access Bank, Universal Insurance and Wema Bank were the major contributors to the total number of shares traded this week. Let's take a look at how trading activities fared at the fixed income market this week. At the secondary bonds market closed bearish following sell-offs
from local and offshore investors in the early parts of the week. Average yield expanded at the mid and long segments as investors sold off the March 2027 and April 2049 bonds, while it declined at the short end following demand for the April 2023 bond. At the Treasury bills market, bearish sentiments also persisted following the 2 consecutive weeks of NTB auctions. At this week's NTB primary market auctions, the CBN offered and eventually allotted bills worth 155.88 billion naira. For the open market operation, its bills were up by 2% week on week to close, while the CBN special bills dipped by 9.47%. Now, First Rand has become the latest bank after Nedbank to stop funding coal mines as pressure mounts for lenders to limit fossil fuel funding. The group says it will no longer finance new coal-fired power stations with immediate effect and no longer provide direct project finance for new coal mines from 2026 onwards in its new climate change policy and updated energy fuel policy. First Rand also says it recognized that energy from fossil fuels were the biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions and constituted a priority area to address in the global decarbonization pathways. And that's business news tonight. I'm Teniola Shobowale. It's back to Kayode for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Tenny. Well, Ayatollah Balogun is now standing by for sports news.
Yes, indeed, Kaide, Nigeria's D Tigers begin their title defense at the FIBA Women's Afro-Basket with victory over Mozambique in Group B. Nigeria beat Mozambique 67 to 50 points at the Palais Polyvalent des Sports in Yaoundé, Cameroon. Now, the back-to-back champions will face Angola in the next game, which will be played on Monday at the same venue. In the English Premier League, newly promoted Brentford FC defeated Wolves 2-0 at the Molineux despite playing with 10 men for most of the second half. Martin Odegaard's 30th minute goal for Arsenal against Burnley secured maximum points as the Gunners held on for a 1-0 win. Elsewhere, Liverpool hammered Crystal Palace 3-0 at Anfield, while Southampton held champions Manchester City to a goalless draw at the Etihad Stadium. Super Eagles forward Emmanuel Dennis got on the score sheet as his team Watford defeated Norwich by 3-0. In the last game of the day, Aston Villa beat Alex Iwobi's Everton 3-0 at Villa Park. Heavyweight boxing champion Anthony Joshua has assured fans that the eagerly anticipated fight with British rival Tyson Fury will indeed happen. Joshua insists that the two heavyweights will go toe-to-toe in 2 fights worth £100 million after facing mandatory challenges. Bouts between the two Brits have long been touted, but talks have dragged on, leading many to believe that no such meeting will ever take place. AJ is set to face Alexander Usyk at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on September the 25th. The 2004 Olympic champion Justin Gatlin says he has retired yet, but he has not retired yet, but will make a decision after a long break. Well, Gatlin finished 3rd in the season, closing 100 meters at the World Athletics Continental Tour meet in Nairobi. The 39-year-old American, who has twice been banned for doping, failed to qualify for this year's Tokyo Olympic Games and was hoping to make amends in Kenya. And Jonathan Ray has regained the overall lead at the World Superbike Championship. His rival Toprak Razgatoglu retired while leading with 6 laps to go in the race of the Catalonia Road. That's race 1. Ray only managed a 4th place finish, but it was enough for him to regain the championship lead ahead of his Turkish rival by 6 points. Ducati's Scott Redding left it late before moving up the grid to take the win ahead of Motocorsa's Axel Bassani. And that's sports news. I'm Ayotunde. Balogun is back to you, Kaide.
Thanks a lot, Ayatunde. Protesters have taken to the streets of Tunisia's capital to denounce President Kais Said's move to seize extra powers. Thousands of people rallied in the center of Tunis chanting, "Shut down the coup," and "We want a return to legitimacy." President Said's supporters also held a counter-demonstration chanting, "The people want to dissolve parliament." The protest, which was met by a heavy police presence, was the first major demonstration since the president declared on July the 25th that he was sacking the prime minister, suspending parliament and assuming executive authority, moves which his opponents branded a coup. The president has rejected the accusations, justifying his move by citing emergency measures in the constitution. Elsewhere, the Taliban has excluded girls from Afghan secondary schools after they ordered only boys and male teachers to return to the classroom. Most educational institutions in the capital, Kabul, had stayed closed after the country's takeover as the Taliban struggled to reopen the economy and restore normal life. Taliban officials say they will not go back to the fundamentalist policies of the previous Taliban government 2 decades ago, which banned girls from education, and have promised that girls will be able to study, but only in segregated classrooms. They will also face a new dress code. While girls have been seen attending primary school and university classes, it's unclear when they will be allowed to attend secondary school. France's ambassador to Australia has left Australia after France recalled its ambassadors from the country and the United States over a security deal which also involves the UK. The alliance, known as AUKUS, will see Australia being given the technology to build nuclear-powered submarines. The move angered France as it ended a multi-billion-dollar deal which it had signed with Australia.
Confident in the Australian-French corporations. I think this has been a huge mistake, a very, very bad handling of a partnership, because it was not a contract, it was a partnership. A trust partnership that's supposed to be based on trust, mutual understanding, and also a partnership based, on sincerity.
And the main news again. About 11 months after it commenced sitting, the Lagos Judicial Panel investigating police brutality following the NSAS protests today suspended proceedings indefinitely, citing need for time to prepare 2 reports from the exercise. Also today, 10 additional students kidnapped from Bethel Baptist High School in Kaduna State regained their freedom 75 days after their abduction. And as Afghan secondary schools reopened today, girls were excluded, with only boys and their male teachers allowed back into classrooms. And that's the news at 10. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikulu. Good night.